Good morning, everyone. It's 5 a.m., 6/11/2020. The year we all lived in hindsight. My name is Cameron Vesey. I'm running for governor of the state of Washington. I live in Spokane, Washington, which is on the east side of our beautiful state. So, many of the things taking place on the coast in Seattle, Olympia, Kent, that whole area, hasn't necessarily been on my radar, especially with the Floyd, especially with the protesting and the rioting, because there's both. I didn't know about the Ellis, Emmanuel Ellis situation. But, I am running for governor, and so I've been researching it this morning, trying to get up to date. And it does change my perspective on the situation we have on Capitol Hill with the precinct. It changes my outlook, my perspective. I don't believe it changes my resolve that I would never have let that happen. I'm sorry. Even with the Emmanuel Ellis, I guess all we could say is murder. You would think in the present moment, well, when did it happen? Did it happen in early June? Yeah. It was before Floyd even, I guess, possibly. I might have the dates wrong because, like I said, I'm just researching it now. Jay Inslee doesn't get it. This is what happens when a white elitist tries to connect with the poor or whatever class, not race, whatever group you identify with. White elitists can't do it. They can't. Pardon me. They can't do it because they don't understand, and I'm not sure we'll ever get them to understand. So what we have to do is get them out of office, because they're always going to say the things they think you want to hear, right? And I don't care if it's a Republican. I don't care if it's a Democrat. They're going to say what they think you want to hear to get your vote. I'm going to say what I think. I'm going to say what I want to hear, because I don't want to hear me selling out to nobody about nothing. I watched the video. I read the reports. Watched a couple different news channels. I read a couple different articles. And the questions that arise aren't being answered by Jay Inslee. Man, what the hell is he talking about, a chokehold? I made a video. This isn't about a chokehold. This is about those fists flying. Is that how they're training police? To pummel a suspect into submission? Is that policy? Is that training? I believe every cop I've ever heard said, no, that's not in the training. So why am I always watching these videos of these white cops using African American suspects as punching bags? I see it a lot, and they do it to everyone. Don't get me wrong. If you watch my left eye here, I've been a professional punching bag for the public, the cops, inmates. It was a career move of mine to be a punching bag. So I understand what it's like to be pummeled by cops. And that's something Jay Inslee can never understand. I've been beat up by cops. Sometimes I had it coming. Sometimes I didn't. Why are cops using their fists to subdue suspects? That's the first question. He never raises that. I saw fists flying to subdue an individual. That bothers me. It bothered the camera operator too, and rightfully so. Okay, so he doesn't mention nothing about the thing they stuffed in his mouth for spitting and biting. Now, I don't know what Manuel was saying to these police officers. It seems like he said something that really got to him. His freedom of speech. I respect that. I don't respect cops getting vindictive over it. They're paid to not hear that shit. They're paid to not hear that stuff. If somebody wants to voice their opinion about police in general, police should understand they're not talking about you in particular. They're talking about their experience with the police in general. You have to, when you're on duty, you have to be on duty. I've been in sales my whole life. I've been a business owner. I talk with customers. I'm actually a de-escalator. You know, when customers come in mad, they're like, Cameron, because, you know, as a professional, I really know how to to slow things down, because I don't take anything personal. I don't let it, you know, they're saying, you know, how loud or whatever they're coming at. You're like, yeah, you agree. Man, that sucks. What can I do for you today? You don't take it personal, and they will get personal, you know. And sometimes you lose that battle. But you know, I've never pummeled a customer with my fists. No matter. Yeah, that's a problem. The fists bothered me. The application of some sort of in this American, a Washington State citizen's mouth, who we're not sure what is he guilty of again? You know, some conservatives or right wings like to bring up the fact that Floyd may have been a less than desirable person, might have been something of a repeat offender or a bad guy and all that. I don't think bringing that up in the Floyd situation adds to the conversation. Sometimes it might. Sometimes it might, but not in that conversation. That conversation was a brutal murder. Was a heartless. Yeah. Anyways, woo. Manuel. So far, I it seems like Manuel was invoking his his First Amendment rights, freedom of speech, and so for Black America, for Black Washingtonians, for people who think hate speech shouldn't be protected, I'm pretty sure those cops thought what Emmanuel was saying was hate speech towards them. So should Mr. Ellis not be allowed to speak his speech to the cops because those cops interpret it as hate speech? I say no. I say all speech should be protected. I say Mr. Ellis was simply, as far as I know, giving those police his First Amendment rights. Now, he might have been doing it very effectively. I understand that. But that's his right. So if these police told him to disperse or take a hike or leave him alone because they were aggravating them, all right. Maybe he didn't comply with their orders or something along like that. Oh no. Don't do that. Don't ever not comply with the whim or the will of a cop because he doesn't like your freedom of speech. Never do that. Because you give them the right to murder you, right? That's not the way it should be. Even if they're tired, even if you're annoying them, they should find a way. They should just listen to Mr. Ellis until he's blown his wad. I'm sorry. That's what you should do. You should let him get it out. And you should be, I'm sorry. I wish I could fix it. You just let him get his anger out. You don't tell him to move along. Or if you do and he doesn't, then you become even more patient. It's your job not to kill citizens because, A, their First Amendment rights are being invoked, and B, they're annoying you. That doesn't justify arresting them for obstruction of justice. You can never convince me of that. So, in my opinion, of what I know right now, Mr. Ellis aggravated these cops somehow and paid the ultimate price. One, why were they using their fists to restrain him? Because he was resisting arrest, because they were arresting him for his freedom of speech? Look, cops need to understand this. If the order you give a citizen is an unconstitutional order, which I believe it probably was, somebody giving you the 9, I'm not talking 9mm, I'm talking the verbal 9, because it's his freedom of speech, and he's in no way obstructing you from doing anything else except watching the world go by. I don't know the situation, but if Floyd was if they're simply on duty, and there's more than one, it seemed like I don't know the situation, but it seems to me, if you tell Floyd that you need to leave because you're obstructing justice, because he's annoying you, you've gone straight Gestapo. You've gone totally communist, do what I say or I'll kill you mentality, and we've got to get that out of the police. If a police officer gives you an unconstitutional order and you don't obey that order, you have the right to defend yourself. You have the right to not be ordered to do something because of a whim of a cop. That's our rights. In my opinion, Mr. Ellis was justifiable in being mad that now he's getting arrested because this cop doesn't like his First Amendment rights. This is bothersome. This is bothersome. And this is how I see it. Hey, if new evidence comes out that shows a different light on this, but as far as I say, this is how I see it. So, Mr. Ellis is upset because now they're trying to arrest him. Why? Because his First Amendment rights? And they're not just trying to arrest him, they're beating him with fists. They're not jujitsuing him. They're not grabbing his arms and his ankles and bringing him to the ground. They're plummeting it with their fists. At that point, who wouldn't defend themselves? Who wouldn't? I mean, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I mean, I've seen so many African Americans show such restraint while being plummeted by little pipsqueak white people that it saddens me when I watch them show such reserve. So I understand. I mean, I don't know. That Mr. Jay Inslee is talking about a chokehold. The chokehold didn't kill this gentleman. The apparatus they put on his face and his mouth to show him that he doesn't have the First Amendment rights. Do you think that's a coincidence? That they just... What? Did he spit on them in the car and then they decided to kill him? Because I don't think that's right. I think a cop should be tolerant of somebody spitting on them. Maybe you arrest them, but you don't kill them. You don't get you don't beat the shit out of somebody because they spit on your fucking pride. I don't care. You can't make an argument. Maybe you shouldn't be spit on. Yeah, a lot of things shouldn't happen, cops. You fuckers. A lot of things shouldn't happen. But if you get spit on by a citizen because they're upset and they don't know what else to do and they want to vent some righteous anger, and it's not at you. They're not spitting on you. They're spitting on the idea of the position you hold. You don't have a right to kill them. You don't have a right to pummel them out of anger because they spit on your pride. Because you're taking things personally. Should people spit on cops? No. But there's a lot of things that shouldn't happen. And if somebody spits on a cop, they don't have anything coming except being arrested. Arrested without killing them. You don't get to put something in somebody's mouth that increases the odds they're going to die because you don't want to be spit on. These are not cattle. These are not sheep. These are humans. And you're responsible as much as anybody else for the interaction with that. You can't just say, well, he spit on me, so I fucking killed him. I'm sorry. I'm running for governor, in case you wonder why I'm making this. The reason African Americans in Washington should vote for me is because I see it from a perspective that these rich, white elitists can never see it. Now, on that note, I would never disband the police. I would never defund the police. We need to train them because they're people. They have a right. They're people. They have families. They have lives. This is a job we need to correct. Yeah, maybe we have to fire a bunch of them. Maybe we have to fire some. Maybe we have to chop some fingers off to save the arm. But defund them? Defund the whole police department? Just start from scratch in these times of uncertainty? No. Now is the time for patience. Now is the time for true patriotism and patience. You're just going to upset the whole system and let violence and anger reign? That's not the way to do it. Calmer minds. I am about police reform in ways that no white elitist could ever be about. I believe the stamp of a felon is the mark of a slave. It's the new mark of the slave. And we have a class problem. We have class problems. The reason we have class problems is A, they're not recognized. According to the Constitution, there shall not be second-class citizens or third-class citizens. All men and women are created equal. That means, in its essence, you don't have royalty. It means there are no kings and queens. There are no knights. There is no nobility. There are no bishops. There are no popes. Everyone's created equal, and we all have a say, and we should all be treated under the same rules, under the same laws, with the same dignity, with the same respect. That's not what's going on in America today. Maybe it never has. Maybe it never has. I don't know. About 50, 60 years. I don't know. What I do know is that you have different classes, and it's not a white-black thing, although it might tip that way, it might feel that way, but it's a rich-poor thing. It's a government official versus average citizen thing. It's a privilege thing, but not of color. It's a privilege of class. It's a privilege of wearing a badge or being a part of the right group. And the reason that's a problem now is because you have this false narrative. One of them is a false narrative. Either we're not all created equal, and America is not about all men are created equal, all women are created equal, or the nobility or these rich people have corrupted our beautiful Constitution. These classist people, these people that have money, I don't care what color they are, I don't care anything except how much money they have and how they vote. I don't care how much money they have. All I care is about how are they impacting our society to benefit them and not everyone. How they're taking their own little values because they think they're better than everybody and making a world out of it that is corrupted philosophy. White elitists, they don't think Black America can make it without a hand up. It's not that we've mistreated blacks in the past. That's true. That is true. It's that they don't believe you can do it on your own. So, On the Emmanuel, Mr. Ellis's case, Jay Inslee gets it totally wrong. It's the fists. It's the First Amendment rights that these cops didn't like. It's the holding a grudge and taking things personally and then pummeling a suspect who's innocent till found guilty. These cops are Judge Dredd type cops, and that has to go. How would I start? I would break the police union. Not the lower wages. Not to somehow endanger the lives of our cops. But these lobbyists, these unions are corrupting our system. They're corrupting our politicians. They're making it so that cops before citizens. They're making our leaders think about, oh, how hard it is to be a cop. Well, it's the toughest job. No, it's not the toughest job. It's not the toughest job. It's not the most dangerous job by far. These are the falsehoods and the narratives that they want you to believe to justify the killing of Mr. Ellis and to justify the killing of Floyd. It is not the most dangerous job by far. And it pays pretty darn good. I don't want to take that away. I'm not trying to take the pay for the effort. I'm not trying to take away how hard the job is. It's not the most dangerous, though. And the practices in which they deploy make it that much more stressful. Now, I believe there's a generation coming up that just in their compassion alone might do the world some good as in the police force. Because I've met a few millennial police, and they're not like the old school, my school generation asshole cops. I'm sorry, I think my generation, Generation X, has failed miserably in the area of compassion and freedom. Why would we? We're comfortable. We lived, we're comfortable. Our parents had enough. We got to mess around, do our thing, go here, go there. I think the Generation X generation has failed America, and I'm Generation X, and I'm running for governor because I believe I can fix these problems, because I believe I have a unique perspective, because I've been in trouble, because I've been successful, because of a lot of reasons. Mostly because Jay Inslee doesn't get it, and he never will. He can't. Too much money, too many lobbyists, and he's too damn white. Have a good day, everyone.